Before I begin, I want you to do something. I want you to reach to a couple of people around you and thank them for being here, because they're warriors who had your back. So, for those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Ted Prince. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. I've been a medical choice activist for more than 30 years. Having my son injured by a vaccine in 1984 woke me up. It helped me to realize that what we're being told and what the truth is often two different things. And when I saw how the medical industry responds to the injuring, the systemic injuring of our children, I knew that we have a problem, and the problem is very deep. Our medical industry, our governments, our media are captured. They're lying to us, they're deceiving us. And I know some, maybe many are well-intended, but there are enough who know that what's happening is wrong. I lost my son in 2017 to his vaccine injury. Josh lived with an uncontrolled seizure from the moment that he had his 5-month vaccine shot. And the difficulty of living with that day after day was excruciating. But I realized Josh came to be of service to humanity, that he was trying to help wake me up so I could help wake other people up. And so I do this for my son Joshua. I do it so that his death is not in vain. I do it so that other children are not harmed the way my son was harmed, and many others are harmed. We need more accountability than we have. We actually need real science, not the kind that is being peddled by our pharmaceutical industry and our public health agencies. In addition to being a father and a grandfather, I'm also the current president of Vaccine Choice Canada. And for most of our history, since they formed in some form or another in 1982 to protect the rights of parents to make medical decisions for their children, we have mostly focused our energy on information, some advocacy, helping to educate parents, and then supporting parents and children who have been harmed. But last year we felt we had to step up a little bit. The Ontario government, which is one of only 2 governments in Canada that mandate vaccines for children to attend school, they have exemptions. But what they did in 2016 is they decided to add a few more coercive measures. They insisted that a parent who did not comply with every single vaccine, even if they excused their children from one, they would be forced to attend an education session to get their mind right. BC seems to think that's a good idea because they just initiated that policy as well. But the other thing that Ontario did is they forced parents to sign what we call compelled speech. As part of the exemption process, they were required to admit that they were knowingly putting their child at risk. And we felt that that had gone too far. We looked for a lawyer that we thought would help us fight the battle with the Ontario government. We found Rocco Galati. And last October, in front of the legislature in Toronto, we stood, Rocco and I, stood in front of an audience like this, and we said, we're going to take the Ontario government to court. When all of this COVID insanity started to show up in February and March, I have to tell you that I was inundated with emails from people saying, could you please do something? Well, Vaccine Choice Canada fight this fight too. I have to tell you, I have almost 10,000 unread emails. I can't get to them all. As a board, we talked about whether this was our fight. We felt like the media had marginalized us, and so to fight a fight about freedom was bigger than our mandated Vaccine Choice Canada. But we didn't see anybody else standing up. So we had another conversation with Rocco, and we said, Rocco, will you take this one on too? And he said yes. So on July the 6th in Toronto, we filed legal action against the Prime Minister of Canada, the Premier of Ontario, the Mayor of Toronto, Theresa Tam, and more than half a dozen medical offers throughout Ontario. Now, we saved the best for last. We also sued the Canadian Broadcast Corporation. So the way the rules of law go, and I'm no expert on this, but I'm learning a lot from Rocco, is that we can only seek relief from the government, but we can financially sue the CBC. So we've sued them for $11 million. Now, they weren't saying nice things about us before that, so I don't expect them to say nice things now either. Just for your information, the other battle that we fought last year is the province of New Brunswick decided that they're the second province that has mandates for child school attendance. And they decided they were going to introduce legislation to remove all exemptions other than medical. So no religious exemptions, no personal conscience exemptions. Now, they did something a little unusual. They formed a committee on law amendments. They invited people to speak before that committee, and they gave them a whole 30 minutes each, which is unheard of. Most of the time, you get 5 minutes. Vaccine Choice Canada brought in experts from around the world. We brought in constitutional lawyers to speak, and we presented to that committee for 3 days. CBC said we hijacked the committee, and you bet we did. I spoke for my entire 30 minutes, and the meeting was angry that I didn't leave room for questions. But they asked if they could put in one question. They asked the moderator if they could ask me one question, and she said yes. And so their question was, if they go ahead with their legislation, would Vaccine Choice Canada sue them? And I said, absolutely. In response to that threat, they withdrew the legislation. But 2 weeks later, they reintroduced it and included the notwithstanding clause. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, it says that they know that they're violating our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, but they're going to do it anyways. They thought that that would protect them from a legal challenge. Rocco advised them that that's not the case. They would still be sued. What I can tell you is about 6 weeks ago, the legislature finally voted on that bill and it was defeated. But you need to know that the war is not over. That was just a little skirmish. They're coming after us. And that's what this whole COVID thing is about. I'm with you. You know, those of us that haven't been fully hypnotized, that have the ability to read and think and ask questions, very quickly came to the conclusion that this was a massive fraud. But I wanted to give the government the benefit of the doubt, and so I wrote our BC government, I wrote Adrian Dix, I wrote Bonnie Henry, I wrote John Horgan, and I said, I got 26 questions. And the questions were things like, what mathematical modeling do you use to figure out what the risk is of COVID? How many people do you think are going to die? How many do you think are going to die from the measures you're imposing? What's your evidence that social distancing works? What's your evidence that masking works? I asked, like I said, 26 questions. After about 4 weeks, I got a response, and they half answered one question. So I wrote them back. And I said, if this was a grade 10 science exam, you would have failed. I sent the same list of questions to the House of Commons COVID committee. And after I sent it off to the clerk of the committee, she emailed me back to say she got it and she would copy and distribute it to all of the committee members. Half an hour later, I got another email from the clerk from the COVID committee saying, I'm sorry, Mr. Kuntz, but I've just been informed that the committee is not accepting submissions from the public. We no longer have a democracy working. Our courts have been closed. There's no accountability. We're in a very dangerous place. And I'm glad you're here to help us preserve it. Well, I don't know how much longer you want me to go, but I haven't even started my speech yet. So for those of you who don't know that aren't Vaccine Choice members, is that we hold a national Zoom call every Saturday evening with people from coast to coast. We bring in experts from around the world to talk about this whole situation. We share the science, we ask tough questions, because we think that we need to be informed. We have to know what we're talking about when we fight this battle. And Rocco Galati comes on almost every week, and he's always an interesting guy. He's got lots to share. I really enjoy when he does that. He was on fire last night. I think he realizes that we're in big trouble here, and so he needed to tell us that stop going along with this insanity. So after the call ended, I thought, okay, I need to rewrite my speech for tomorrow. So let me quickly share with you some of my thoughts. First of all, I want to say is I'm not here to protest. Protesting is a statement that others are more powerful than we are, and I don't believe that. I'm here to honor, celebrate, and express values as informed consent, bodily sovereignty, medical choice, and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This is a very dangerous time in the history of Canada and the world. I have not seen a threat of this magnitude in my lifetime. Our very democracy, livelihoods, economy, rule of law, right to privacy, freedom, and autonomy are all at risk. If things continue as they are, all these rights and freedoms will be gone by Christmas. And if you doubt that, take a look at what's happening in Australia. I now live in Kelowna. When I showed up here on Friday, I was absolutely shocked. I hadn't been in Vancouver for 6 weeks, and the amount of masking in the city was shocking. I couldn't believe what's happened in 6 weeks. And this increase is happening even though individuals hospitalized and purportedly have died from COVID-19 has declined dramatically. What it tells me is people's fear should be decreasing, not increasing. But that's not what's happening. I blame the federal government, the provincial government, our public health officers, and the mainstream media for this. What we know now that we didn't know in March is that the lethality of COVID-19 has been massively overstated. If you are under age 60 and in good health, the risk of dying from COVID is virtually zero. The evidence is clear that the mortality of this infection is similar to a moderate influenza season, even with our artificially inflated numbers. So the fear is not based upon lethality. Instead, the level of fear is a result of intentional and deliberate manipulations by the government, public health, and the mainstream media to manufacture fear. The real epidemic is not a virus, it's unwarranted fear. If Dr. Henry and Adrian Dix and John Horrigan were being honest, they would be reassuring the public that the crisis is over and we need not be afraid. If I paraphrase John Lennon, I would say is the pandemic is over if you want it. But they are not making efforts to reassure the public they are not getting us back to normal. Instead, they are repeating the mantra of panic and that we should be afraid of every single citizen. We are sacrificing our livelihoods, our democracy, our economy, our communities, our families, and our freedom based upon the number of people purportedly testing positive. A number that is rendered meaningless when you understand that the SARS-CoV-2 virus has never been isolated, purified, or proven to cause the infection called COVID-19. I had coffee with a friend yesterday, and he told me that he believes the government is doing the best they can with what they know. But I'm sure you get that too. I had a good friend when I told him that we were suing the government. He said, "Ted, I can't go with you there. I believe in science." And I said to him, "I believe in science too. That's why we're suing the government." to tell you in that statement of claim that we filed, it was supported by more than 45 world experts. We had 245 references, over 191 pages. Rocco said it was the longest and most complicated statement of claim he's done in his entire 30-year history as a lawyer. We outlined in that statement of claim that the measures being imposed are irresponsible, dangerous, not supported by scientific and medical evidence, and a violation of our rights and freedoms. So I know that what our politicians and medical officers and mainstream media are doing is not because they don't know the facts. They know the facts. They don't care. The fraud is intentional. They have another agenda. The agenda involves keeping us afraid. They want us begging for a vaccine. It's not going to happen. By every indicator, their measures are failing miserably. According to their own numbers, case counts are rising out of control, so they say. Our economy is in free fall. Our rights and freedoms are violated on a daily basis. Our privacy is invaded. Our bodily autonomy is dismissed. And our health, most especially our mental health, is in serious decline. Unemployment is up, bankruptcies are up, suicides are up, family violence is up, drug and alcohol abuse is up, homelessness is up, helplessness is up. There's plenty of evidence that their measures are doing more harm than good. You know, Bonnie Henry says to be kind, but what she's doing is not kind. True care doesn't involve dishonesty, deception, coercion, manipulation, intimidation, the silencing of criticism, or forced medical treatments. The measures that we're imposing is not about our health. Forced isolation, forced masking, contact tracing, microchipping, hiding in our homes, disconnected from our families and communities, our elders living and dying alone, our children denied a proper education and socialization, our right to congregate as a community outlawed. These measures do not promote health. Instead, masking is mandated. Masking is not an effective medical intervention. There's no scientific evidence with a verified outcome that supports masking to prevent viral transmission.
That's right!
The mask is a psychological device. The mask is obedience training. It's part of the incremental violation of our rights to ensure acceptance of forced vaccination when it comes. There is no informed consent with masking, just as there will be no informed consent with the COVID vaccine. While the government says that the COVID vaccine will not be mandatory, make no mistake, restrictions will be in place on those who are not vaccinated, just as restrictions have been placed on those who are unmasked. Access to food, education, employment, travel, and public amenities will all be restricted. Coercion is a simple disguised form of mandate. This government doesn't want us to assemble here today. They don't want us to have this conversation. The fact is the government is afraid, and it should be. Our trust in our government and the medical industry is declining rapidly. More people are waking up. The curtain is being pulled back. More people realize the emperor has no clothes. I will not stand by and allow cabal to destroy our nation, our economy, our democracy, our rights and freedoms, and our bodily sovereignty. I will not go along because it's easy to go along. It's time for a new normal because the old normal is not good enough. It got us to this insanity we have today. I believe this is a time of transformation. The old mythology is breaking down as it should. Some have called this the great unraveling. Let's create a better society than we have. People are waking up. 50,000 people showed up yesterday in Montreal. More than 1 million showed up in Berlin a week ago. Walker did an interview with Rebel News last week. His interview was watched more than 100,000 times before Facebook took it down. On September the 1st, Rocco publicly launched the Constitutional Rights Center. Since that date, he has received more than 700,000 hits in less than 2 weeks. We have been contacted by lawyers from around the world who are requesting to use our statement of claim to sue their governments. If the measures that are imposed don't take into consideration the health of our community, the health of our economy, the health of our relationships, if the actions violate our rights and freedoms and our bodily sovereignty, if the actions are not evidence-based, they're not the right actions. So again, I want to thank you for being here today and helping us to reclaim our rights and freedoms and expose the truth. I want to leave you with the words from Mahatma Gandhi. He said, civil disobedience becomes a sacred duty when the state becomes lawless or corrupt. I'm going to pull Steve Jobs. One more thing. I think it's time that we take the BC government to court, don't you? mother-in-law has been contacting me a few times. And she's started up an organization called Action for Canada. And she asked if Vaccine Choice Canada would join in launching a legal challenge. So we're hoping to sign a retainer agreement with a lawyer I happen to know. That we're going to start a fundraising campaign immediately. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ted, and for Vaccine Choice Canada and all that they're doing. It's been an incredible journey. On April 1st, I spoke in Victoria for Canada Day. Boy, this is a different crowd. This is just so exciting and so awesome. And somebody handed me a flyer, and on it, it talked about Bill 19. And I thought, what's Bill 19? And I have a feeling that a lot of you don't know about it either. And Bill 19, it's described as, I'm just going to start referring to my notes a little bit too, because I don't want to miss a thing in my message here today. So the BC government at the end of June had tabled this bill. And once people started finding out about it, they quickly passed it through second and third reading on July 8th. Because of the nature of this legal action that we're commencing is due to this bill. And it's due to the overreach of the government prior to that. But when you hear about this one, you're going to want to get involved. And with Vaccine Choice Canada, we've decided to come together, but we're going to need your help because this has to be a constitutional challenge. That's the only way to overturn Bill 19. It's a very costly undertaking, and we can't do this on our own. So we're reaching out to you today. If we're unable to raise the funds that are required, we will decide to do one of two things. We will take a lesser action, but we will take an effective action. And any extra funds will be donated to the action that Vaccine Choice is taking against the federal government, the CBC, and other bad players in this. So nothing's going to go to waste. So we need a lot of money. It's going to be around $400,000. And so we've set up a donation page on Action for Canada. Somebody made this wonderful sign, so thank you to whoever did that. So go to Action for Canada with the number 4 and go to our donation site, actionforcanada.com. And we've had a little technical difficulties because we have a second link that will be set up for this, but we're going to put our own needs aside right now. And until we get this sorted out, you just donate to the big red button on that page, please. And we'll take care of whoever is trying to interfere with what it is that we're doing. And we'll get everything up and running smoothly. So that's just a start. So anyway, so for the past 6 months, as we know, the BC government has supported the federal government's extreme lockdown measures. Despite public outcry and the countless number of internationally recognized medical and scientific experts advising that the threat from this year's coronavirus does not justify the measures that have been imposed. Due to the egregious and persistent violations of citizens' constitutional rights, the BC provincial and municipal governments, in their response to COVID-19, we believe it is necessary to take this legal action. So on July 8th, as I mentioned, Bill 19 was passed. They call it the COVID-19 Related Measures Act. Bill 19, we'll take it all. Okay, so, wow. We're gonna have a hat on the front table, and I'm walking around with this box, okay? So we got both ones. People are putting 50s and the 100s. You guys are amazing. We're gonna let this woman keep talking, but we're gonna keep collecting this money. This is absolutely amazing. I'm so. We're gonna have a hat on the front table, and I'm walking around with this box, okay? So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. People are putting 50s and 100s. You guys are amazing. And I want to let this one I thought I just one smoke. But I know some pretty fantastic people. And I know the people of BC love this province, and they're so concerned for the future of this province and this nation and the future for our children. And I kept saying, no, I'm not the one for this. It's got to be somebody else. Somebody else will step up. And you know, I just kept pushing forward because it has to be done. I kept hearing that voice saying, this has to be done. This bill has to be challenged. And then when I contacted Ted, there wasn't even a hesitation that we needed to do this. We're doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for you. We're doing it for the future of our children. And I know some pretty fantastic people. And I know the people of BC love this province, and they're so concerned for the future of this province and this nation and the future for our children. I have great hope today. No, and I hope you do too, because we're going to fight, and we're going to fight hard. I've been described as the most draconian legislation constitutional lawyers have ever seen. And you know what? That bill has in it says, oh, and don't think that anybody, any of you could come and hold any of the premier, any of the MPs, our health advisor, anybody responsible for the negative effects of what this lockdown has done to any of you. So they're covering their butts because they know what they're doing is wrong. Yes. And that's falling on millions of people in this country who are out of work. Okay, I've been so thrown off, and this is so overwhelming, you guys. I'm just absolutely amazed. This is absolutely thrilling. We're gonna do this, right? We're gonna do this. The MPs, everybody responsible. All right. All right, this lady has a word.
Hi, I made my way up from the back. I'm going to donate $1,000. Who's going to match me? Let's go.
Thank you. What's your name? Debbie. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, everyone. All right. All right. All right. The box is on the front table here at the bottom of the stairs if anybody wants to make their way forward. Thank you so much. I want to talk a little bit about what the effects of this lockdown, who this has affected, and why the government should be held accountable. Thousands have died in BC because life-saving surgeries, organ transplants, and other treatments were not deemed essential. COVID patients are dying after being denied life-saving treatment. Yes, hydroxychloroquine with zinc works. The elderly are suffering in isolation, and they're being denied the visits of their families, of the company that they need to survive. They need this, and do you know what I've heard from nurses that are caring for our elderly? They said the saddest thing to see is that
They are dying alone, not because of COVID, but because of old age. So they don't have the comfort of their families sitting by their side, watching vigil over them. I did that for my grandmother. I went there every day and held her hand in her last days, along with my uncles and my mom. That's what they need. They don't need to be isolated. Death by suicide. I talked to a lady the other day, and her husband and her son are psychiatrists, and they said they haven't seen anything like this. The rate of suicide is at extreme levels. Anxiety, depression, drug and alcohol abuse, and domestic violence all have increased exponentially. Recent data collected by the CDC revealed that 25% of children have considered suicide due to the extreme measures of isolation. Many people are unable to pay their mortgages or their rent and are on the brink of losing their homes. Millions of Canadians have lost their jobs or businesses. Travel bans and other restrictions are affecting the ability of investors, global and local firms, and entrepreneurs to do business. Small businesses are being targeted in favor of large corporations. The red tape and bureaucracy causing a lack of productivity, leading to closure in many cases. This has got to stop. I mean, this has been such a confusion for me. How do we pay tax? If we're not paying taxes, how do we keep a government going? Right? They're not even working for themselves anymore in this. The Canadian debt load has increased exponentially, saddling our children and grandchildren indefinitely.
Millions of Canadians.
The prolonged emergency measures in Bill 19 are
and other restrictions are affecting the ability of investors, global and local firms, and entrepreneurs to do business. Small businesses are being targeted in favor of large corporations. The red tape and bureaucracy causing a lack of productivity, leading to closure in many cases. This has got to stop. I mean, this has been such a confusion for me. How do we pay taxes? If we're not paying taxes, how do we keep a government going? Right? They're not even working for themselves anymore in this. The Canadian debt load has increased exponentially, saddling our children and grandchildren indefinitely. The prolonged emergency measures in Bill 19 are unlawful. Bill 19 was hustled through, and it is unlawful, and it is unconstitutional, and therefore it will be challenged. We contacted a top constitutional lawyer who has agreed to take this case on, and we're excited to get that going in the very near future. So again, I request you guys, please, thank you for your generosity today. I am truly touched and overwhelmed. We will continue this fight. Please go to actionforcanada.com to our donate page and continue to donate there. Tell your friends and family about this, because together and united we can do this. All right. So that's one part of my speech. On to part two, because there's something else I want to cover, and it's how we got to this place. What's brought us here? And it's been heavy on my heart, and anytime I get a chance to talk, I talk about this issue. So I want to start first by thanking God for the land that we are standing on. It is Him and Him alone who created the earth and all that is within it. No man can lay claim to that which God has brought forth. Secondly, and this may go against everything that some of you may believe to be true, but Canada is a Judeo-Christian nation. Our history is being wiped out and replaced with cultural Marxism. And according to Justin Trudeau, We are no longer a sovereign nation, but instead a post-national state with no core identity. So let's talk about the truth. We need to have this conversation. Canada was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. They were inherited through our British Commonwealth. They're embedded in our Magna Carta. It forms our laws and our values, and it is a system of governance that sets us apart from totalitarian, extremist, and communist regimes. Regimes who impoverish and oppress their citizens and prohibit the freedoms that we have taken for granted, such as the freedom of speech, thought, religion. Our system of governance gives you the freedom to believe or not to believe without the fear of death or persecution. If you're at odds with this statement, I challenge you to think about whether or not you would be willing to give up Canada to live in one of the 57 Muslim majority countries, or communist China, North Korea, or possibly Pakistan. If the answer is no, then we really, really need to embrace this. A secular, godless society is little better, and it was only one small step away from tyranny. And this is the slippery slope Canada has been sliding down for the past 50 years. The Lord's Prayer was removed from schools. There was separation of church and state, abortion, multiculturalism without integration and assimilation, which has provided the opportunity for extremists to also enter Canada under the cover of religious rights and are systematically undermining our democracy. The preamble to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is very clear. Whereas Canada is founded upon the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. This represents the God of the Bible, by the way. And the reason this is so important is that nations built on other systems of belief live under tyranny. This is what Canada was founded on. And why I'm bringing this up today is because we have failed to understand or appreciate how critical it is to our democracy. We have become a godless society and in turn godless leaders, tyrannical, totalitarian individuals have infiltrated all levels of government and are destroying us from within. Because of this, Canada finds itself in unprecedented times. Division, uncertainty, and chaos are growing. The depths of corruption and deception have no limits amongst the totalitarian demagogues who have led the masses down a path to their own destruction. Thankfully, many Canadians, are waking up and recognizing that our nation is in peril. Many feel helpless and wonder what we can do. Action for Canada would like to offer you a solution to be part of a growing group of Canadians who are effectively uniting and focused on defending our faith, family, and freedom. Let me reiterate, when I speak of this being a Christian nation, that means that you have the freedom and the right to believe or not to believe without fear of persecution. It offers everyone the free will to decide their own path. We work with many other organizations and are uniting on issues so that we can have the greatest impact, because there is strength in numbers. So we're not here to just inform you. Action for Canada, we're not here just to inform you. What we want to help you to do is we want to encourage you and equip you to take action. So I'll write letters. I'll do all the research on whatever issue it is. If it's against banning our guns, well, I'm going to do the research. I'm going to support the gun lobby groups, and we're going to write letters. And we're going to send them to elected officials, and we will rally outside their office, and we will do whatever we need to do on whatever issue is of importance. And I think keeping our guns for law-abiding gun owners is a pretty important issue. into tyranny had two things taken from them. One was their guns, and second was their military and their police decided to stand on the side of tyranny rather than with the people. And so why do you think they're trying to undermine our good law enforcement here today? Why are they trying to turn the public on our police? We gotta stand with our police. And we encourage our military and our law enforcement to stand with us. We thank our military and our law enforcement for what they do every day for this country. And it's a tough job right now. So we need to support them. Sure, there's a few bad eggs anywhere, right? And they're struggling at the very top right now. We got Bill Blair and Commissioner Lucky, who are not representing their officers. 100% they're undermining them. And we as the public, whatever you can do, support them. It takes sacrifice and commitment to step into this arena, and we do it because we love this country and we care about our fellow Canadians. So I really ask you to come to actionforcanada.com and join as well. Be part of this movement. It's across the nation. I'm working with incredible organizations. We are really working together and we're building a real momentum. The tyranny is blatant, but the tools of warfare have been a stealthy and strategic military attack using psychological warfare to pit Canadians against one another. Race baiting, victimization, guilt, entitlement, stirring up resentment and envy has been incrementally implemented over time. A slow wearing down of society to accept the erosion of our sovereignty, heritage, and charter rights and freedoms. Socialism is seeping into this nation through failed immigration programs and welfare programs. It has taken hold, and for many, they are no longer expected to work hard to achieve their goals, but can rely on the government and their social programs to provide for them. One of the keys to communism is to make people reliant on the government. COVID-19 has catapulted the agenda forward at warp speed as millions of Canadians find themselves currently financially dependent on the government. This has to be stopped. He is buying votes with our youth. CERB has got to stop. We've got to encourage our kids to have the integrity to get out there and work. We've got to send them a clear message. They are toppling our founding fathers. They are working to destroy parental rights and tear down the natural family. They have targeted our children and youth and filled their heads with lies. They are sexually exploiting our children and causing a mass social contagion leading to their sterilization and mutilation of their little bodies. Canada has become a culture of death, unlike anything we have experienced in our lifetime. Fixated on killing the unborn and euthanizing the elderly, the sick, and the mentally ill. The UN is leading this cult, but not without the help of the foreign central banks, Soros, Gates, Trudeau, and the rest of the global cabal. Wicked leaders. Wicked leaders are behind this. But I'm going to bring you some words of hope. God is a God of justice, and He will prevail. Proverbs 14:11 says, "The house of the wicked will be destroyed, but the tent of the upright will flourish." As for us, what does God ask in times of such despair when a lot of people have turned their back on Him? He says in 2 Chronicles, "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land." For those of you who are comfortable to do this, we've seen a lot of people taking knees to anarchy lately on the news. They've taken every good act that should be an act of humility and respect, and they've made something foul out of it. And I'm going to ask us today as an act to take that back. So I'm going to ask whoever can to take a knee, and I'm going to say a very short prayer. Dear Lord, God, I thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today, and I thank you for these amazing people. Heavenly Father, I pray your blessing over them, Lord. And together we pray for your mercy and your forgiveness. And we ask you, Lord, to rescue us from our oppressors, to bring justice, and heal our land. Amen. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless Canada.
Thank you, Tanya Gaw, and thank you, Ted Coons, for all that you guys have done for Canada. And thank you all for those generous donations. Very appreciated. Thank you very much. Thank you. How are we doing, guys? We still up there? You with us? You having a good time? All right, our next speaker, you guys all know her very well. She's got a very popular radio show, TV show, and I'm very proud to introduce her right up there at the very top where she's very noticeable to the world. Give it up for Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson!
Okay, I'm good. I'm good. So I just want to declare something to you, that they're all talking about a second wave. You are the second wave. I heard today that somebody said that Dr. Bonnie Henry, I can't confirm this. Have you heard this? She is not going to require masks on kids at school. Have you heard this? Yes? If that's true, I want Dr. Bonnie Henry to know that my respect just went up 10%. Now, when we stop all of the other nonsense, my respect will go up more. But until then, we are the second wave. I want to let you know that if any of your loved ones get sick, hydroxychloroquine, I've been on it for 14 years. Not one doctor ever told me it was dangerous. Not until Donald Trump happened to mention that hydroxychloroquine might work. Well, all the leading expert doctors say that hydroxychloroquine with zinc works. So I want to come out of the closet about something. I love Donald Trump. That man is the last hope between us and complete and utter meltdown of tyranny. So we declare to you today, Mr. Mr. Trudeau, you need to pay a lot more attention to the people and stop sitting around at home and pretending that we have a crisis that you can make money on. We won't take your vaccine. And we won't wear your masks. And especially not while having sex. Now I'm a Christian woman, and so I don't want to swear. But sometimes Dr. Tam gets me a little bit upset. So I'm praying for her. I'm praying every day that she goes back to the WHO and gets out of Canada. It's completely a godly perspective. Read Psalms. If you are unrighteous, God will wipe you from the earth. I would like to take my time and donate it to someone special. Ryan gave me a certain amount of time, and I want you to hear from two people that are amazing. And they have a short period of time now, but I want to say that the first guest is going to be our Lucier. Would you come up here, our Lucier? Do you know him? He drove in from Kelowna today. And this man is Métis. And he's Canadian. And he loves our country. And I stand with him, and he has a whole bunch of groups. They travel Canada. It's called Battle for Canada. And we didn't know that we were going to have to do Battle for Canada. So thank you. Thank you, our Lucier. And when you're done, you all know Dan Dix? When you're done, you hand it off to Dan Dix. My time's up. I love you guys. I try not to cry up here. God bless.
Thank you, Laura. We love Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson. She's been giving a lot of courage to Canada lately. And a lot of these groups, I am just blown away. I want to make a statement. I got something quickly to read. Diversity is not our strength, but unity is. So I just quickly, I'm from Kelowna. I am a faith-based leader in Canada, trying to wake up the Church of Canada. A lot of you guys are way in front of us. I think the atheists need to pray for the church to wake up. I quickly wrote this out because I'm a preacher, and I don't want to just preach to you, so I want to quickly read something out before I get to Dan. In the days of Hitler, not many conceived the murdering socialistic psychopath and eventually what he would do. For a few, they stood, but it was too late.
Yes. Yes.
And when they did stand, they were executed.
Yep.
Fear gripped everybody else. Information suppression, book burning, racial dividing media, abuse of power led to the loss of freedom and eventually the loss of millions of lives. As a leader in Canada, I've come to realize that if we do not stand together now, that we may soon die divided. That seems alarmist to some, but it's coming.
It is.
A loss of freedom is definitely a type of death, and it's now at our door. First Nations, atheists, Catholics, charismatics, French, English immigrants, we are Canada, and we must now stand in guard for our nation and for our kids. the name of Pierre Trudeau. Would bring forth legislation that would bring the erosion of both family and freedoms. With Bill C-150 and others, he also praised the communistic leader, Fidel Castro, and gave thumbs up to the terrorizing and socialistic control that Castro then had on Cuba. And of course now, Pierre's son is at the helm, and apparently 10 times worse.
Rigged election.
Justin has given up millions upon millions of dollars away to other nations in the name of false climate change, women's health. All the while, First Nations don't even have clean drinking water. Oh, and if you're a veteran, there's no money for you either. Jobs are lost, businesses are lost, livelihoods are lost, homes are lost, and ultimately now lives are being lost. A man shot himself recently on the steps of legislature, December 2nd, 2019 in Edmonton. A man executed himself to make a statement, and Justin Trudeau yawned. Justin breaks the law in the name of saving a few thousand jobs in Quebec, but is silent on the 100,000 plus jobs in the energy sector lost just because he doesn't like Alberta. He would also fire his First Nations Attorney General from BC for telling the truth about it. Bankruptcy and now suicide abounds, and that's all before the lockdown. He has since partnered with the Communist Party of China to bankrupt this nation, quarantine us, and lock us up. With lies upon lies to spread fear and control, and all the while upping the carbon tax, just to stick it to you while you're bent over. Justin has tried to gain ultimate control of regulations and spending only while a handful of MPs are pushing back. His government is responsible for the loss of lives of many Canadians, and for that, he needs to be held responsible. Justin Trudeau, open up this nation again. End this lockdown. We will neither accept this as a new normal. It's not normal. Nor will we give up your freedoms while you try to take more power. Justin Trudeau, you have been weighed in the scales and been found wanting. Judgment is at your door. Step down and stop your communistic campaign. And remember this, Justin, we do have an identity. It's a dominion of Canada under God, and we only bow to God, not you. And one last thing. This is my PAL. This is my possession acquisition license. The right to bear arms. Hey, Justin, you can't have it. This Métis will go down just like Louis Rail fighting. Governor State of Canada, well, look around. There's a whole bunch of people standing this time, and you ain't getting us this time.
Amen to that guy. Good, thank you for that, guys. All right, guys, I'm live streaming this right now, so please say hi to the world, Vancouver. I gotta tell you guys, it's really awesome to see so many like-minded people in one place, that these many people have not been brainwashed by the television. You guys are clearly not watching too much TV. Have you guys noticed that it's become incredibly easy these days to tell who is watching too much television just by simply looking around? Isn't that incredible? Well, now we have this kind of a turnout, but it wasn't always like this, guys. When me and my wife went to the first lockdown rally, I think it was back in April or in the spring, I put out a little tweet and it went viral, and we were laughed at. I was mocked in the media. I had people trying to fight me in parking lots. Vancouver's own Seth Rogen chimed in and said, "Go home, you effing idiot." I think history's going to look back on who the real idiot is, right, folks? So we have to fight for our freedoms right now, and a lot of people have been saying to me in the lead up to this rally, well, we are free. What are you talking about? This is Canada. This is Vancouver. Why are you guys doing this? Well, it wasn't that long ago, guys. I don't know if you guys saw this, but a month or two ago, I was covering a Black Lives Matter rally. Did you guys catch that? I was surrounded by some BLM and Antifa members, and I was assaulted. And the Vancouver Police Department ended up arresting me over that. Does that sound like freedom? No, it's not. It's not, guys, and we have to push towards more freedom. But my message today is we cannot look to the government to solve the problems that are being created by the government, okay? When we got to stop listening to the health officials. You know, they want us to, as Laura Lynn said, have sex with a mask on. You know, hold your own baby 6 feet away from you when you can. I mean, it's absolutely insane. So we just have to disassociate ourselves. So my message today, guys, is if you want to deal with this problem, first turn off the TV, and then second, just don't comply anymore. Non-compliance is the key moving forward, guys. They want to push a mandatory mask on you? No thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. Walk away. They want to push a mandatory vaccine? Thanks, but no thanks. I'll choose to say no and walk away. They want a digital ID? Thanks, but no thanks, guys. We cannot continue to comply with this because the beauty part of this whole thing is we actually make up the base of this pyramidal structure of power. And that has them terrified. If enough of us realize that fact and we start to step outside of this system, what happens, guys, when you remove the lower brick of a pyramid? The entire thing comes crumbling down, right? So that's where we're at today, guys. It's time for non-compliance. We can no longer go along with this government that is forcing us down this road. The way to do that is to take it upon yourself. Take the responsibility upon your own individual lives to no longer comply with the government. And as I said, when we do that, when we step outside of this pyramidal system of control, the whole thing's going to come crashing down, and it's going to be a beautiful day when it does. Thanks so much, everybody.
Hey, Ryan, where are you, buddy? Who's next? Who? Donna Roth. Hey, Donna Roth, where the hell are you? Get up here. Donna. Are you Donna?
I have a condition that prevents me from wearing a mask. It's called thinking for myself.
Ah, look at this beautiful soul. Her name's Donna. Here you go.
Thank you. I'm standing out of my box today. Recently, closer? Okay. Recently, there was a massive rally with over 1 million people that were present in Berlin. The biggest demonstration in its history. The movement was organized by Kurdenken. Translated, it means think differently or think outside the box. I love the slogan and I choose to build on it in this presentation. That germ theory is a belief system. Vaccination is a belief system. What if I choose to think differently? We are all here choosing to think differently. And this is the way I see it. It is one thing to choose to have a certain belief system like the germ theory, but it's another thing to find out, as I have found out, that the belief system is actually causing harm, destruction, and death. The germ theory follows Pasteur's way of thinking. In the view of Pasteur, there are germs out there. They come from the air and they cause the disease. The germ is dangerous and must be killed. The germ theory belief system led to the evolution of several well-accepted industries commonplace in our society today. The industry of pasteurization killed the germ. The industry of antibiotics killed the sore throat with an antibiotic. The industry of vaccinations, protect yourself, there's a killer virus. Businesses were built on this belief system to keep this business going, to move the populace into a germ theory way of thinking. Another powerful industry evolved, and that's the industry of keeping society in fear. Fear to a virus. That same virus that we have all experienced many times, the flus, the colds, and we've witnessed how our bodies have been able to overcome them. Measles, we overcame measles. Chickenpox, we overcame chickenpox. Innately, thank you. Innately, we never feared any virus. We trusted our bodies to heal, and we developed that faith that we could heal. However, the germ theory industry continued to push us into their belief system. The virus now became the enemy. Mainstream media was used to get the message out. The virus was a killer, and we all needed a vaccination. And this industry had two very strong allies to assist in their prevailing message. That's science and mainstream media. We were told vaccines are safe and effective, proven by science. The science was clear, and one by one, we succumbed to that narrative, to that message. And using that Clinton's term, we became addicted to this belief system. And eventually that faith that our bodies could heal became lost. Finally, it was my turn because I became a mom. And I had to do some serious thinking about vaccinations. I stepped outside the box. I dared to question, to research. I read the inserts to the vaccines, aluminum phosphates, thimerosal, formaldehyde, I don't know, animal pus, and all that conglomeration of what I called witch's brew. Reading such information and witnessing the effects of vaccines, I chose to think differently. And this is where I was totally alone in this world. And I realized that those who strayed away from that way of thinking were shunned, ostracized, and called names. But in my mind, I heard my mom's voice. She's no longer here, but as a Ukrainian, this is what she said. Bog dal nam rozum. God gave us common sense and wisdom. And in my research, I discovered a whole new world that existed outside the germ theory. And it was the world of the laws of nature. It started with Dr. Moskovitz in the Mothering magazine. He taught me about the immune system and how it works. He said this. He proved that there was scientific evidence that the vaccination process, by its very nature, imposes substantial risks of disease, injury, and death that have been persistently denied and covered up by the manufacturers and CDC. The laws of nature taught me you don't inject unnatural toxic substances into your bloodstream. The laws of nature taught me viruses don't cause disease, injury, and death. There is no fear. Then I discovered the book Bichamp versus Pasteur, a lost chapter in the history of biology by E. Douglas Hume, 1923. A banned book. Why would a book be banned? Bichamp chose to think differently. He studied diseases, as did Pasteur. Human diseases, animal diseases, plant diseases, and what he discovered was totally contradictory to what Pasteur was teaching. He discovered the very essential units of life. Microbes and germs. They would change and mutate according to the kind of morbid waste debris and the amount of it that was present. These microbes, germs, viruses were there to gobble up toxic, life-robbing debris to allow life to continue. Pasteur claimed germs caused the disease. Bichamp proved the disease caused the germ. These germs, these viruses are our friends in nature. But Bichamp's way of thinking was not well received. It stepped on the toes of the germ theory business. Bichamp's discovery of the essential unit of life was overshadowed, his book was banned, and the germ theory continued to live. However, somewhere in the 1980s, along came another scientist, Gaston Naessens. He also wanted to find the essential units of life. He also discovered similar crystal-like units, and he named them somatids. In a state of health, the somatids had 3 stages. When there was toxic morbid debris, the somatids mutated into bacteria, microbes, viruses, yeast, parasites. They were all on the same pleomorphic cycle. Sadly, Gaston Naessens was packed off to jail. Protesters lost their medical freedom, and the germ theory survived. But there's something very interesting about the laws of nature. They never die. They don't go away. You can't bury them. You can't destroy them. You can't do the convincing, the fear-mongering. Nothing works. The laws of nature continue to survive all trials and all tribulations. And so, today, there is others who are resurrecting the laws of nature. 2020, and we hear the voices of Dr. Bichamp, Dr. Bush, Dr. Kennedy, Dr. Wakefield, Robert Kennedy, Dr. Judy Nicholas, and Ted Cruz, and Vaccine Choice Canada. And millions are in the process of thinking differently. The germ theory is false. Germs are our friends. Viruses are our friends. Vaccinations are not needed. So let's apply the law of nature to the coronavirus. It has been documented that this virus has now mutated and changed at least 32 times. The law of nature, of course, says that viruses are never constant.
They're constantly changing, mutating, gobbling up that toxic waste debris to allow life to continue. So following the laws of nature, knowing that the virus has mutated 32 times, I ask these questions. How can anyone ever isolate COVID-19 virus? By the time you isolate it, it has changed several times and it keeps changing. How can you ever test for COVID-19 virus that has already mutated 32 times? How can you ever be scared of a COVID-19 virus that no longer exists because it has now mutated 32 times? Well, knowing the laws of nature and your common sense, you can easily answer these questions. So why are people dying of COVID-19 virus? Following the laws of nature, I believe they are not dying of the virus, they are dying of a toxic overload, a compromised lymphatic system, an overload of poisons. And where do you suppose that comes from? Let me quote Dr. Loeffler. Dr. Loeffler said point blank that much cancer and diseases are caused by vaccines and serums, that these unnatural substances injected into the human bloodstream deposit more toxins in one shot than a year of injudicious eating. For this courageous attempt to spread the truth, Dr. Loeffler was forever damned. The laws of nature clearly show me that poisons from vaccines don't belong in anybody's bodies. These simple laws of nature are so powerful. I discovered and I researched, I embraced them, I witnessed their healing power when I decided I would no longer use antibiotics for tonsillitis. I turned to golden seal, rose hips, and chlorophyll. I've witnessed the healing power of these herbs from the laws of nature in many other people. As a result, I took it upon myself, from my background being a vice principal and a teacher of elementary schools, I designed a course. And that course I called Taffy. I love it, sweet, taking action for your health. This is where you learn the 5-pillar formula for the laws of nature. And I want to share them quickly with you. Injury, inflammation, elimination, infection, and circulation. Pillar number 1, injury. The law of nature states that an injury sets up the process of cell replication. In cancer, for instance, there is continuous cell replication because there is an injury. The law of nature states your body has an amazing set of carpenters. They are there to replicate the healthy cells for you and to repair the injury. They are called stem cells. And they require nutrients that are no longer available in grocery stores. This is where you have to rely on outside sources. So what do I use? I use Chi Mineral Tonic, flax lignans, collagen powder, Ultimate Green Zone put together in a smoothie, all tested and quality controlled, so there are no glyphosates, chemicals, antibiotics, or vaccines. It's a law of nature that your body is electrical. Your body is 78% water with an electrical charge of 7.5 millivolts. Later on, you will hear Dr. Ross Anderson talk about how electricity can affect your body. Now, what is it that your body requires for the conduction of electricity. It's water and it's copper. Our homes use copper as a metal for electrical conduction. Our bodies use copper for chlorophyll for the conduction of electricity. Pillar number 2, inflammation. It's the law of nature that you have a lymphatic system that parallels your bloodstream. It's your personal inner carburetor. It cleans out your toxic debris. If you load up your body with antibiotics, candida, vaccines, you clog up your lymphatic system. Your blood pathways become loaded and they become inflamed, so oxygen and nutrients can no longer reach that area for repair. It's the law of nature. When the oxygen levels to the injured area drop to below 35%, then oxidation for the purpose of cell replication can no longer take place. We need to clean out the debris. There's one particular herb I like, and it's cat's claw combination with astragalus and echinacea in it. Pillar number 3, elimination. It's the laws of nature that your poisons will eliminate from your body to your kidneys, your skin, your lungs, and your bowels. There are herbal combinations and herbs for each one of those organs. Nature is so very wise and so very loving. I have witnessed a number of people with kidney disorders do a simple one-day kidney cleanse, and within a month, their kidney functions rise dramatically. Pillar number 4, it's a law of nature that in a low oxygen environment, there is activation of those microzymas and bacteria, viruses, fungus, and yeast become active, not to kill you, but to gobble up the toxic debris to allow life to continue. And the fungal DNA can integrate into the stem cell line, thank you, during the cell replication and mutate the cells. When the fungal DNA integrates into the stem cell line of skin cells, the result is cancer. Pillar number 5, circulation. It's the law of nature that in a healthy body, the body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius or 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Last of all, I want to say, I have witnessed many people overcome their sick bodies, be it from cancer, diabetes, leukemia, rosacea, lupus, by choosing these 5 pillars. Today, I ask you that you ponder on these words that have been spoken, that you choose to think differently. Choose to join Vaccine Choice Canada. The germ theory is a belief system. Vaccine is a belief system. Choose to think differently. Choose the laws of nature that gives us life, and I support it fully. I choose to take a stand today for my children, my grandchildren, your children, and your grandchildren. Set aside your past belief systems, your prejudices, your criticism. There is no killer virus. A virus is your friend in nature. No one can shed a virus on you, and you cannot shed a virus on somebody else. You don't need protection or safety measures. Nature is there to give you life, love, and protection. See your own greatness. See that your body is able to heal. See your own God-given inner power. And with that greatness in action, and with your love in this world, we are changing the world as we speak on this day. Greatness is upon us. By following the laws of nature, we are in the process of creating for us our children, our grandchildren, the most awesome, amazing, beautiful world. Thank you.
Vancouver, how we doing still? We awake? Good, still hearing you guys? All right, come on. What do we want? Freedom. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Freedom. When do we want it? Now. Freedom is essential. Freedom is essential. Rights are essential. Rights are essential. Just the guys' rights are essential. Rights are essential. Just the girls' freedom is essential. Everybody, rights are essential. Rights are essential. Make some noise. Because we are making noise for that Canadian beauty right there, that flag. That's why we're here. Make some noise for Canada. All right, so we're going to change it up. Instead of doing a little speaker now, we've got some music coming out from Vancouver's own singer, songwriter extraordinaire, Miss Camille Capel.
If you've locked yourself in a cage, now's the time to come out and play. Yeah. You can unplug from the machine and go back to where it's green. 'Cause the cure's in our design. Step outside, you'll be just fine. Don't believe the lies that have compromised our lives and our nature. We're children of the earth. Each and every one has equal worth. Like the birds and the bees, the flowers in the forest and the sweet fresh breeze. Where the water is free and the land flows with milk and honey. When they shut down all of the clubs and they distance us in the pubs, we'll find the places where we can hug, where we can dance and feel the light. 'Cause the cure's in our design. Step outside, you'll be just fine. Don't believe the lies that have compromised our lives and our nature. We're children of the earth. Each and every one has equal. We're made in nature, like the birds and the bees, the flowers in the forest and the sweet. We're made in nature, where the water is clean and the land flows with milk and honey. The moment you doubt your birthright to be free, cover your mouth, believe in the disease. You're giving the devil the keys. When they shut down all of the holy places, and there's nowhere left to gather that's sacred, we'll just walk away like black sheep, and the fields will sing and preach. 'Cause the cure's in our design. Step outside, you'll be just fine. Don't believe the lies that have compromised our lives and our nature. We're children of the earth. Each and every one is equal. We're made in nature, like the birds and the bees, the flowers and the forest and the sweet fresh breeze. Nature, where the river is clean and the land flows with milk and honey. That's our latest song. We're not made in China, we're made in nature. It's a song, the new album's coming out, and I'm gonna release that video any day. And we got another song here that I'm gonna do. I don't know, some of you may have seen it on YouTube because it kind of went viral. But unfortunately, it kind of went viral on some hate pages. So I've really been taking it on, but you know what? It's okay, because if I can suffer the slings and arrows, because there's a few people that are waking up, and this what this song's about. It's called Wake Up Call. Sing along. What I know to be right is to speak my truth. What I know to be right is to seek the light. What I know to be right is to sing my song. And I'm gonna invite you to sing along. This is your wake up call. Now is the time to come together. Take off your mask and smile at each other. 'Cause the real virus is the fear that now divides us. And the only care is love. What I know to be right is to hug my mother. What I know to be right is to play outside. What I know to be right is to share my gifts with you. And I'm gonna invite you to share yours too. This is your wake up call. Now is the time to come together. Take off your mask and smile at each other. 'Cause the real virus is the fear that now divides us. And the only cure is love. Looks like a handful of wealthy people causing a whole lot of social law. If we do their bidding, we risk losing our footing and our freedom forevermore. This is your wake up call. Now is the time to come together. Take off your mask and smile at each other. 'Cause the real virus is the fear that now divides us. And the only cure is love. The only cure is love. Love you, Vancouver. I love you, Canada. I love you, British Columbia. Thank you.
Great job, Camille Capel. Let's give it up for her. Okay, go to the event page. Camille's going to post that song for you guys later. That's awesome. Okay. All right, guys. We got to get Tree for you next. We have a guest from the group Clear coming in all the way from Kelowna, BC. Right there, we have David Lindsay. Give it up for David Lindsay, everybody.
Hello, everyone. So what do you think of your first taste of communism? Well, that's a message we're going to have to get forth to the government and get it forth very, very quickly. If you look in here at our logo, the first words on it, you'll see resistance is not futile. And our efforts have a major effect and will have a major effect in the future. Recently, we had a good success story in Kelowna. And we've had up to 120, 30 people at our rallies, and we haven't missed a Saturday's rally in 5 months. So that says a lot about the commitment for freedom in people in the Okanagan. 3 weeks ago, you remember Fort Worth, who we affectionately call Fort Worth? Remember he issued an order saying, we're going to go after all these people who have all these gatherings and rallies, and we're going to get you and charge you $2,000 fines for the organizers. Less than a week later, we tested them on that. We had the first event where we had 200 people show up. I was speaking, Donna was speaking, and Ted Kuntz, who spoke earlier today, was speaking. Interior Health sent me a legal notice the day before not to have it unless we were going to have sanitizer, test everybody, and unless we were going to take everybody's names and numbers. I wrote them back and I gave them a legal notice. And I said, I'm not doing that. And if you interfere with our rally, we will hold you legally accountable for doing it. Our constitutional rights override anything in the Public Health Act and or the Emergency Program Act or Bonnie Henry's orders. They do. And we showed up, 2 RCMP showed up, Interior Health showed up, and the Parks Department showed up, all trying to cancel us. Really? And I made sure they knew we had constitutional rights, we weren't backing down, and we weren't leaving. And the best part was the video that night on Global TV where they showed Interior Health walking away like this with their head hanging low. That was success. And I'll tell you, we had 200 people, folks, and they were not social distancing. And free hugs went everywhere. So, a friend of mine talked to one of the local police officers here this morning before we got started. I'll keep him anonymous to respect his anonymity, but we had an awesome quote. And he said, we decided to suspend enforcement today of the Public Health Act because the charter is above the Public Health Act. So kudos for the police here today. That's what we need, is the police to stand up and support our constitutional rights and freedoms, because it's their rights and freedoms too. So that's an awesome thing for happened, and that's what happened with us. And the police stood up for us, and they said, we're not enforcing the bylaw, they have a right to be here, and they're doing it. And we're going to have more rallies and more support in the future. One thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to try and keep it pretty short, but it's important because everything else that everybody's talked about today depends on what I'm going to tell you. And that's called thinking critically. When Bonnie Henry and the media puts out her words verbatim in the papers, and she says there's 203 or 5 deaths, what's the first thing you think of? It should be, how did you count those deaths? Where did they come from? Who were involved? How many would have died within 3 months anyway? And a host of other questions should be asked. You need to question everything and challenge everything that the government says, including Bonnie Henry. Everything has to be challenged. Do not believe anything they say, because everything they say is nothing but a lie. Nothing they say can be supported. Everything they can do is wrong. And if you look at the media, for the most part, and I'll give credit to Global for a good report they did on us, but everyone else pretty much in the media, I'll tell you, they're going to get you hating the victim and loving the criminals pretty soon if they get their way. That's not going to happen. No, it isn't. So you need to ask everything that comes out. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. And if they say there's a report that they're relying upon, who did the report? Did they get the degrees out of a Cracker Jack box? Who are the experts that Bonnie Henry is relying upon? Who are these people? We're not told who they are. Yeah, Teresa Tam, right? And we're not told told anything about them. We're not taught their qualifications. We're not taught where they came from. We know nothing. But we're supposed to support them over the thousands of other doctors in the world who are saying they're wrong. And we're not going to support Bonnie Henry any longer. Not that we ever should have. And once you realize these experts are wrong on everything, I want you to think linear through the whole process. What was the next thing that happened? They had false models. These models predicting 500,000 people were going to die. And 500,000 people in England were going to die. And then they go back and they retract them a week later to 20,000. You can't be that wrong on a professional. These models were flawed from the source because they didn't have any facts that were correct to put into the models. And they knew it. And Bonnie Henry knew it. So they knew that the models that they were using to support the initial order on March 16th and March 18th, they knew that the models were wrong because they had no facts in the first place. And they still went and used them and told everybody about these models, knowing they were wrong. They lied to you.
It's a pandemic!
Yeah.
Pandemic!
And then they go on, and then they say to you, you should be scared because we're doing all these tests. Does anybody here think critically? What are those tests? It's called a PCR test. Gary Millis, the guy that invented it, said it's not supposed to be used for diagnosing viruses. Why are they doing it? And why are they shutting down our economy based on a test that has a 30 to 50% error rate? Would you trust your life, your quarantine future, to these guys on a test that can have a 50% error rate? That's what they're doing. There's a woman in Quebec. She has tested positive and pausing. She has no symptoms. The company won't let her work. And she's got no symptoms. And they won't let her out. Quebec now is building quarantine facilities and not telling them where they are. That they're going to be putting people in. So it's critical that you talk and you ask questions. And if they're going to test for a COVID-19 virus, I want to see the virus. As was mentioned earlier, the virus has not even been purified yet. So how can you test for something that you don't even know exists? How many people here, I want to ask you a question. How many people have actually seen the orders that Bonnie Henry issued on March 16th? Half a dozen. So if you haven't seen it, where are you getting your information from? You're getting it from mainstream media for the most part. I've seen her order. I have a copy of it. And under the Public Health Act and the Emergency Program Act, in order to be a public emergency, certain conditions have to exist. And her order lists 4 facts that she's relying upon to take away your liberties. I'm going to tell you what those 4 facts are. Number 1, she says a communicable disease known as COVID-19 has emerged in BC. So what? We get new strains of the flu every single year. Nothing is new there that hasn't existed for centuries. She says SARS-CoV-2, an infectious agent, can cause outbreaks of a serious illness known as COVID-19. What facts is she relying upon? Because she doesn't see it. What facts does she rely upon that it's serious? The government admits 80 to 85% of people have little or no symptoms. That doesn't sound very serious to me, does it? Does that sound serious enough to take your rights and freedoms away, shut our economy down, put 14,000 businesses in bankruptcy, and have untold number of people die because their elective surgeries were canceled? The third thing she says, a person infected can infect others. So what? You can do that with the common cold. You can do that with the flu virus. Nothing is different that didn't exist for centuries. And the last one, she says, gatherings of large numbers of people. Gatherings of large numbers in close contact can promote transmission of disorder and increase the number of people. So what? That can happen with the common cold or a regular flu. Nothing is different that she relies on. Those are the only facts, folks. Nothing is there that doesn't exist and hasn't existed for centuries. Millennia. Okay, millennia. The CDC in the States lists 10 symptoms. 10 between what exists with the cold, the flu, and COVID. Listen to this. Out of 10 of those symptoms, the flu is worse on 5 of them than COVID is. They're equal on 4, and COVID is only worse on 1 symptom out of 10. That's it, just 1.
Go, David!
So my question to Bonnie Henry and Mr. Farnworth, who refuses to answer my questions, no reasons being provided. My question is this: what facts, exclusive to the COVID-19 virus, did you rely upon to issue your orders and shut our economy down? What facts that the flu doesn't have or the cold doesn't have did you rely upon? Because they all have the same symptoms. And there's absolutely nothing. And they're not answered. When we talk about masks, you know masks don't work, but we need to ask the questions, why do they not work? Denny Rancourt in Ottawa, as part of the vaccine choice case, has phenomenal information on masks and why they don't work. It's important to ask the questions on why they don't work. What types of masks are there? What are the specs for each type of mask? How do they stop viruses? Do cloth masks work? You know, if you've got these masks on, air goes through the path of least resistance. If you've got holes in your nose, it's going to get in no matter what. The mask will do nothing. That doesn't talk about the fact that the COVID virus, assuming it exists, is, with other coronaviruses, 0.125 microns. The best masks will only go down to 3 microns. They cannot physically stop it no matter what. Somebody once said, using masks to stop somebody else getting the virus is like asking me to jog so you can lose weight. No more masks! No more masks! Right, and we need to be shaking them, let them know. I had a girl, she works in one of the stores in the Okanagan. She told me some guy threatened to phone the police on her because she coughed. I'm lucky for him, I wasn't in line at the time because I would have shamed him out. And social distancing, they now come up with a study that says the virus, assuming it exists, can go 15 feet. Well, they can go 15 feet, what difference does 6 feet make? And what difference does it make in some countries can allow you even 3 feet, others have 4 feet. So there's no synonymous between any of them. And Bonnie Henry has already pointed out that the number of 50 people in an area is arbitrary. She's admitted it on TV, it's an arbitrary figure. She picked it out of the hat. It has nothing to do with safety.
H1N1 wants rehearsal for this.
So, the last couple of things I want to talk about are the symptoms. There's 2 things about COVID you need to know. One is the seriousness, and the other is the death rate. Well, it's not serious if 85% of the people have no symptoms, so we won't go there. But with the deaths, we all know they're fudging the figures. Bonnie Henry's been in the kitchen cooking books for months. Okay? Why does the government record deaths with the virus as with deaths because of the virus? Big difference. Big difference. How are the deaths calculated? When you see these deaths in the paper, you need to ask questions. Who drafted the rules for calculating the deaths? Where did they get the power from? Were autopsies done on any of these people? How many people had an autopsy done when they said that it was COVID? If you've got 3 months to live and you're in a home, most of the average care home time is about 730 days. So if you're on your last legs and you're in a care home and you get COVID and die, and you would have died in 3 months, they still mark it as a COVID death. That's completely false. So
You're live.
The statistics are being falsified. We can prove it. I've got
It's been a great day, everyone.
I've been punching their numbers, and these numbers are from their sites and their admission. Everything from the beginning has been falsified. The models are wrong. The tests are 50% inaccurate. All the mortality figures they give you were wrong. The fear factor they give you is completely unjustified. We're lucky. We think you will not.
You do. We're from Kelowna. We love you. Thank you. Let's have a hug. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. God bless you as well. Sure, we can do it. Yep. Thanks.
Everything the government says is wrong.
Great. Thank you. Keep it up.
What is the solution?
Thank you so much.
I'm going to tell you what the solution is.
No more masks.
Many years ago, in the United States, Alexander Haig, the former Secretary of State, was watching his people went out protesting against taxes. You know what he said? He said, let them march in the streets all day long. They want to pay their taxes. What good does it make if we all come here and rally and then everybody walks home and puts a mask on? They laugh at us. We lost. The solution is just say no. We're not social distancing. We're not wearing masks. We're not contact tracing. And they won't pay you to do it. That's what we have to tell our businesses. We need businesses to put signs on their windows that says masks are not allowed. Until the businesses come on board, we're going to have a real hard time because we've got to shop somewhere. We need to let these businesses know we are not going to wear masks in your store and go in and do it. Exactly. Walmart, several others, we just walk in and we don't wear them. And we don't justify the reason. We just walk in. Sorry, I'm not wearing your mask. And we're not going to wear them.
This is Rod Taylor, leader of the Christian Heritage Party.
The stores are not giving fines
down to show his support. Thank you.
But we need to support these businesses
And
and
I'm
let
the
them
leader
know
of the
we are not going to go into your stores and forcing us to wear masks. That is the importance of sacrifice. A friend of mine 20 years ago said, Dave, Canadians haven't suffered enough. Now you're finding what it's like to start to suffer. When they shut our schools, our hospitals, everything down, and you come downtown in Vancouver and it's just empty. That is not something that I'm going to live with in my country. We fought too long, and our fathers and grandfathers fought too long, and then they fight that for a communist named Trudeau, or Tab, or Henry to come and take it away from us. Henry, Dix, Farnworth, and Trudeau have falsified everything. They lied to people, and they've committed constitutional violations. And you know what that makes them? Criminals. And what do we do with criminals? Lock them up. Lock them up. Lock them up. Lock them up. And don't let them out. That's right. That's how valuable our rights and freedoms are. And we're not giving them away. If you don't realize that they're using a virus with a 99.5% survival rate, then you're not paying attention. It's got a better survival rate than the flu.
Hey, how are you? Thank you. Thank you for the hug. Thank you. Love you too.
And we're not giving in. And we're telling the state, in no uncertain terms, you are going to stop this. And we are not going to comply with your orders. We are not complying with your directions. And you better damn well learn that quickly.
Sorry, what's your name?
Laura Lynn, Tyler Thompson.
That's about
Tyler
all I'm going to say
Thompson.
today.
Thank you very much. I saw you earlier on.
Yes.
You're a
You need
Christian,
to
yeah?
convince
I am.
everybody.
Christians
And
don't
you need
believe
to
in
act
guns.
on it
God
yourself.
does not
Do
believe in
not
guns.
Right. Oh,
comply
no,
with
I
your orders.
think he believes in protecting.
If we leave
Yeah, but he
and
doesn't
don't
believe
comply
in
with your
guns.
orders, not only do we lose, they sit in the
Australia
hotel
gave
rooms
up their
laughing at
guns
us.
and they regret it.
When we
sir.
leave and we
They're
don't comply,
pro-gun.
Yeah, but
that's when we
Christianity
have the
and
power.
gun
We're
ownership
taking
is
it back.
totally...
No, I
And
don't
we're gonna
agree
turn
with
that
you.
off for Reagan
Hi,
and
bless
everywhere
you.
else. And we will
Bless you.
not
Thank you for
comply.
the hug. Love you.
Thanks for everybody for showing up and for supporting some wonderful speakers you had earlier today as well.
All right,
Thank you.
everyone. Woo! Our batteries are going down.
Everybody, give them a round
And
of
we had an
applause.
amazing time. And this has been absolutely phenomenal.
All
And I
right.
just want to say
Now my
that I
next
thank you
guest
for watching. I
co-founded
thank you to
this
Vancouver,
group
to all of
right
BC
here with
for
me back in
showing up,
April.
for being
The
here,
celebration of
for being
freedoms and rights, and
courageous.
who knew
We
that
need
how important
courage
that name
right
would
now.
resonate
And
right
this
now, because
is
this is
courage.
what it's all about. Our
All of this
celebration of
is
our
courage.
freedoms and the rights are on the line, and this is what we're supporting right now, our freedoms and our rights. Right here. Ladies and gentlemen, the best business partner I could have, my co-founder, Taylor Reed.
Hey everybody! How you doing? All right, so I wrote a speech because I have a tendency to swear a lot when I get heated about things. So I'm going to try and stick to the speech, but mind you, there
Goodbye,
are still a
everybody.
couple
Thanks.
F-bombs, maybe
Our
acids
power-
or something else in
our
there,
power's
okay?
going down.
All right,
Thank you
so
for showing
I
up.
first want to give a huge thank you to each and every one of you for coming out today. Truth be told, those opportunities to speak our truths would not happen without you, so thank you.
You know, it's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.lauralyn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.